Saying again, but I'm doing it, it feels good, happy to night to give everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order, so we'll start with a roll call. Thank you.
Karen Gill. Not present. Frank Kinsella.
Here.
Robert Sipple.
Here.
Allison Falwell.
Here with no microphone, so I'm gonna yell.
There's too many words, but you can't count. Lauren Lewis.
Here.
Lisana Dominguez. Here. Raj Banat, not present. Justin Fields.
Here.
Dan Kenny. Not present. Steve Mink.
Here.
Lonnie Wong Bassett. Not present. Mayor Burton. Here. Edward Von Runnen.
Here.
Joe Henwood.
Here.
Beth Ricksdale. Here.
Okay, to read, thank you, public comments. So this portion of the meeting is used for these rooms, designed to address the committee for any matter. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, Mark. Public comments for anyone who'd like to address the committee for the meeting this evening.
There are none.
Thank you. So now we'll move to the approval of minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Frank Kinsella. Are we ready to vote?
You approved the minutes.
Yeah, do I say that also?
Yes.
Okay. Do you approve the minutes and a vote?
Okay. Frank Kinsella.
Yes.
Bob Sipple.
Yes.
Allison Falwell.
Yes.
Lauren Lewis.
Yes.
Lisana Dominguez. Justin Fields.
Abstain.
Steve Mink.
Abstain.
Mayor Burton.
Yes.
Ed Von Runnen.
Aye.
Joe Henwood.
Yes.
Beth Ricksdale.
Yes. All right, we will move to the opening report. From myself. Do I have the report that I should be reading? Okay. Is there anything specific I should be talking about at this point, Carolyn? We can talk. Okay.
Floor is yours, not for you, it's your open.
Oh, that's my open mic. Oh, I get to have a little pulpit. Thanks, everybody. I just want to say it was really great to work with the comms team. We produced a video to highlight the outdoor spaces. I think it's the first of maybe 3 in a series that we're thinking about doing. So if you have social medias, I suggest you check out the post on Instagram. And I don't know if it was already sent to the CAC members as well via email, but that might be something we can do as well so that all of the board members and committee members can see it. That's my minute. We'll now move on to committee business, with any members of the public will have an opportunity to comment on the agenda at this time. And speakers are limited to 3 minutes. No one? Okay, thank you so much. I think that's going to be a goal to get some people online or in here as well too. So now we're going to actually receive a presentation from our communications and media update with Charlotte and Anne Marie. Thank you.
Good evening to our Citizens Advisory Committee members. I'm Charlotte Graham. I'm the Public Information Officer for the Open Space Authority. Avery Cruz, she's our communications coordinator. She's not able to be here tonight. She welcomed a beautiful little baby to the world, and we're looking forward to welcoming her back very soon. But I'll let the rest of my team come up and introduce themselves.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Anna Marie. I'm the Multimedia Communications Specialist. And tonight I'm also happy to introduce you to our brand new communications intern, Elena Vasquez, who joined us last month. Elena has already hit the ground running with social media, website updates, video support, and event support. And we're really excited to continue having her support basically all of our communications projects. So I'll let Elena introduce herself to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Elena Vasquez. I am the new communications intern. I'm a student at San Jose State University. I'm majoring in public relations. I was also previously on the San Jose Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Services communications team. So I'm very happy to be on this team, and I feel very lucky to be part of such a great organization. So thank you.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to start off by sort of breaking down some of the steps of engagement that that we look at. So we're going to start sort of at the bottom of this pyramid, where we're engaging on social media. So this is one of the simplest ways to stay connected with the Open Space Authority. It includes things like following, sharing, commenting on the content that we post online. Social media is also just a really fun way for us to spread awareness about the benefits of nature and amplify our mission just to a wider audience. So moving up the pyramid, we're looking at visiting the website. So the OSA website is really our ultimate information hub. So it allows people to just dive deeper into who we are, explore our projects, find different ways to get engaged with us and get involved. Moving up, looking at signing up for our email newsletter, attending events. This is a little bit more of an interactive way that people can get involved and connect and learn about nature and get engaged. And then right at the very top, becoming a volunteer. That is the highest level of engagement that we have. Volunteers, all of our CAC members play a really, really important role in our hands-on conservation, outreach, and community engagement work. So whether it's assisting at events, maintaining the trails, contributing, whatever your skills are, this is where we really see action turning into impact. So we're going to move into some strategy updates that our team has been working on. So the work of our communications department is really quite broad, and it's a continuous effort to refine and expand our reach to make the biggest possible impact. So this wheel that you see on the screen, it represents some of the key pillars of our public education and awareness initiative. And I'm going to talk more about this in a few minutes. You're going to hear that again, but each of these segments highlights a different communication channel. So we know that we have a really pretty solid foundation in each one of these channels, but we also know that it's essential for us to continue evolving. So this requires a lot of listening, and just trying new approaches. So we need to see what resonates. What is resonating with the diverse audiences that we serve in a way that really inspires action and engagement. So to elevate our strategies, last year we issued a request for proposals for marketing and PR services. That led to the selection of Landis Communications and PR, and their role has really been helping us fine-tune and identifying gaps in our digital outreach, suggesting opportunities for improvement, as well as helping us with some of the implementation. So with their guidance, we've been working to enhance our digital reach and do even more media pitching than ever before. So a really key focus of this work, though, is leveraging digital tools. So web optimization, search engine optimization, email marketing, and digital advertising. So through these efforts, we're gaining a much stronger understanding kind of our constituents, and this is really helping us inform some of our decisions as we continue to evolve our communications and just trying to strengthen our connections and make meaningful, lasting impact.
Okay. So throughout all of our communications, whether it be social media, email marketing, everything basically that Charlotte just mentioned and that you saw on that wheel, we're always trying to come back to our key messages. So we hope you're somewhat familiar with all of these at least some level. We have climate resilience, wildlife, land stewardship, way of life, and agriculture. you can see this image actually. We recently created this new impact brochure, which you see on the right. It's a resource actually for you, for any of us, for staff, for volunteers, CAC members, board to use and distribute. We will come back to collateral later. But again, these key messages you're going to see woven throughout all of our communications, no matter what the channel or media is. So our first stop, our first tangible stop is email outreach. So going back to those key themes, we really use storytelling to emphasize each or a few of these key messages, or sometimes all of these key messages every month. So we do this to keep our content diverse and interesting, as well as try to capture really the vast breadth of this organization and what we do. So our email newsletter has really continued to evolve and improve over the years as we learn more and as platforms change. You can see kind of this is a quick snapshot of just the way that it's very visually changed, but even the content itself has continued to evolve, again, as we learn about our audiences, what they like, as we learn new ways of storytelling. And this is not going to end with 2025. Looking ahead, we're going to continuously improve more and more. Some quick examples of what we're doing recently. We're incorporating videos now more in our newsletters. As we can tell, more and more video is just becoming such a strong way of communication. And we're continuing to make layout updates to make it even more mobile friendly, because as we're seeing more and more, most people are reading emails on their phones these days. Our metrics continue to show pretty strong performance with open rates that are well above industry standards, which is always really, really great to see. And that said, as we continue to evolve our newsletter, again, it's this never-ending journey, really. We're always open to feedback, whether that be, again, layout or story suggestions or just new ways of doing things. Our inboxes and phone and office is always open for feedback from you all. So another place you'll see absolutely all of our key messages, along with everything about the agency, is our website. We did launch a brand new website back in December of 2024, so right before the new year. You might remember our presentation that we gave to you all in late January, I believe. We presented the new website and kind of did a deep dive on some of the changes and improvements. So even though we have launched this new site, it doesn't mean the work is over. If anything, the new site is actually making it even easier to do continuous updates and improvements, again, as we're looking at data and basing our changes on that. We have seen, excitingly, 100% increase in website users just in the first 5 months of the new launch. So that's really, really cool. As part of our recent public education initiative, which Charlotte's going to get into a little bit deeper, we're actually pushing even more people to our site right now through ads and digital media for people to learn more about our work and get connected with us and with nature. So I think we're expecting to see the users go up and up and up. Some things to look forward to beyond just kind of the general improvements that you might see with any site is making it even better of a site for multilingual and multicultural users. I don't have it on the screen. Oh, you can actually kind of see the very top right of the top photo. We have a language switcher now. You can't really see it, but right now it's in English. This is a new improvement to our site. We have a language switcher. So one thing that we did early on with the new site is we did testing. So we had people come who spoke languages other than English and actually tested out how the site works and how that language switcher works. We worked with our ethnic media consultant to do that. Paying really close attention to the translated content. And the results were super informative. So we're looking forward to using that data to, again, just improve the multicultural and multilingual experience on the new site. To you.
Thank you. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, one of our ongoing priorities is expanding our reach, and we're doing this through a new digital public education initiative. So the goals of this initiative are to promote greater awareness of the authority, drive new engagement, specifically increasing visitation to the website, as Anna Marie just mentioned, getting new signups on our email newsletter, and increasing, our followers and the engagement that we see on social media. And just really making sure that we're continuously updating our messaging and our content as we get access to all of this new data and feedback that we're collecting. So through this effort, we're working with Landis Communications to deliver a variety of targeted advertising efforts. It's across multiple platforms. So we're looking at Meta, which is Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Google search engine marketing, and these tools are allowing us to reach broader. Did I touch something? Sorry. Okay, to reach a broader audience, just really effectively and also in a cost-effective way. And again, it's just allowing us to get so much feedback about which messages and search terms are resonating and are just most relevant to our audiences. So you'll see in the top right corner, you can see some of the searches that we've already gotten feedback on that are performing really well and driving people to our website. So alongside this digital awareness effort, we're also working with Amoredia. There are our ethnic media consultants to continuously improve how we're connecting with the diverse communities that we serve. Because we know that linguistic accessibility is really important. We know there are residents in our jurisdiction who are experiencing barriers to engagement due to language or linguistic isolation. And through our collaboration with our ethnic media consultants, we're working to create culturally competent messaging and inclusive outreach strategies that are integrated into this larger digital initiative. So this is going to be ongoing. And we're also working with Amoredia to identify new opportunities to sponsor and participate in multicultural events hosted by local agencies. That said, if you know of local events that you think would be great to engage with or sponsor, please let us know. We'd love to hear about them. Okay. There we go. So this in-person part of our work, the outreach piece, it involves a very important partnership and collaboration with our volunteer and education teams. So we as a communication team, we don't work in a bubble in any sense. Our team really enjoys getting out and supporting outreach. We love going to events, but it is mostly our volunteer coordinator and our volunteers going out and tabling and going to these community events. So while our digital efforts are really amplifying, our visibility, our name recognition, our messaging, those face-to-face interactions are really important. The experiences that people get through our free nature events, the volunteer programs, and that in-person, it helps foster this deeper sense of trust and relationship building through all of these direct conversations. So while our team is putting out the digital ads and making sure that our logo's out there and really prominent at all the events, it's really important that we're pairing this with the in-person outreach. So it's a shout out to our volunteer team. It's a shout out to all of you on the CAC who are going and supporting these events and getting out there in the communities. Having this presence in the communities that we serve, it definitely helps us create a more well-rounded engagement strategy. So we're really excited about this combined approach. We want to do a whole lot more of it. So just noting in the middle here, that photo, we are starting to add the events that we're sponsoring to our website on the events page, just to give it even more reach, get even more people connected and excited. So this month we were actually especially excited to launch a series of paid advertorials in support of Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Month. So this included digital ads. It was displayed across 14 different local ethnic media outlets in languages including Vietnamese, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Filipino, Hindi, Punjabi, and several other Indian languages to help us connect with a wider audience in ways that feel just familiar and engaging and really friendly. So in making our information and resources more accessible, we hope to continue strengthening the relationships and just create a more lasting engagement that reflects the voices of the many people that we serve. I'm talking for a long time. Sorry, Anne Marie. Okay, so our media relations or our earned media efforts have really grown significantly over the last couple of years. So as a reminder, earned media, that refers to coverage that is not paid, but generated organically. So it's one of the most valuable ways that we can raise awareness unlike advertising, which we have control over, earned media kind of carries this added layer of credibility to it. When news outlets are choosing to cover our work, it just signals trust. It reinforces the significance of our work, our mission to a much wider audience. So while we saw a very high volume of coverage in 2023, lots and lots of articles, a lot of it was centered around these milestone events. So our 30th anniversary, the opening of Mayaoyakma Coyote Ridge, lots of articles about that. In contrast, in 2024, it kind of like marked this very major shift to just a much bigger variety of topics being covered. So acquisitions, events, board happenings, CAC happenings, volunteer highlights. Our presence in the press has expanded significantly, which is exciting. And we're continuing to build relationships with local reporters, which is an important part of that. So one example that I was really excited about, she's not here tonight, but Avery Cruz, our, oh my gosh, I don't know why I'm blanking. Thank you. Our communications coordinator, my brain was going somewhere else, I apologize. She wrote an article about monarch butterflies, and we went to our ethnic media advisors and they transcreated it into Spanish, and we pitched it out around Dia de los Muertos, and it got a ton of coverage. It got published in multiple media outlets in English and Spanish, and it was just this really exciting way that we were able to share some of our content out in other languages. So this momentum is definitely continuing in 2025. So far, we've had multiple TV broadcasts, op-eds, numerous media mentions. Most recently, in the last week, we saw a KQED perspective from Andrew McKenzie, our general manager, and a feature on our urban grants program in the Mercury News. So that was great. We have no intention of slowing down. We're ramping up all the time. In fact, next week, Friday, May 30th, we're co-hosting an event with the Bay Area Ridge Trail, Santa Clara County Parks to celebrate the rerouting of the Bay Area Ridge Trail and the new countywide master trails. And basically, it's going to be this big celebration out at Rancho Cañada del Oro. So, of course, we want all of our CAC members to attend if you're able to. And we're inviting members of the press, and we're going to be taking photos and videos and making a splash of it. And we have some other stories in the queue as well. Okay, now I'm going to pass it.
Okay, so moving on from press and media to social media, which is my personal favorite. Social media, like all communications platforms, kind of presents its own challenges and opportunities. So some of the challenges, many of you might know, social media is just absolutely oversaturated with content. Everyone's on social media. So getting your content in front of eyes becomes more and more of a challenge, especially as the algorithms are changing. It's always kind of a moving target. Along with that, not just the algorithms that are changing, but also the metrics. So when you go and you're trying to actually see, how is this post doing? How is my content performing? The platforms themselves are kind of always changing the metrics that are available. One month it's views that you can see, the next month it's reach. Anyway, it's a little bit kind of like comparing apples to oranges. So to make sure your content is performing well, you have to be a little bit flexible how you're even analyzing what success is. So those two kind of combined ensure that you really have to have a lot of creativity and flexibility when it comes to helping our content and therefore our agency get in front of the right people and get in front of a lot of people. So these challenges, though, provide kind of in the inverse these great opportunities. By leaning into creative and fun ways to communicate, we've actually found a ton of success. So some of our somewhat viral posts that have come about in the past year or so are on the board, kind of the memification sometimes of our content and our messaging, but still in ways that always, always, always go back to our key messages. So even if we're doing a fun who wore it better, comparing, red carpet looks to actual natural species, or doing this bird horoscope, there are still ways to tie it into, we're still educating people about native species. We're still educating people to the importance of protecting native habitat. We're always thankful. I'm so glad that Chairperson Mara brought it up, because we're really always thankful to CAC members who are willing to participate in social media. So we just posted, the first of hopefully a few videos with Mara, showcasing how to get involved with the Open Space Authority, what the CAC does. And this opportunity is available to all of you. Feel free to reach out. We might be reaching out to you for opportunities to, again, be in video, be in photos. If you're a little bit less inclined to be in front of the camera, that said, we're always really thankful for you to provide us with ideas and photos that we can share out. So whenever you're on the trail and you see something cool, send it our way if you take a photo. If you have an idea for a fun social media series or just a one-off post, again, our inboxes are always open. Additionally, our social media ambassador strategy continues to really be a big success. So this is reaching out to content creators who maybe are local or who are creating content about the outdoors. We really like connecting with them. And in the past few years, we've built those connections by having events with them or reaching out personally. No Worries Amigo Hiking is a great example, thanks to a recommendation, again, from Mara to get involved with Jeff, who's in charge of this local hiking group really focused on mental health and getting people connected with each other in nature. We first connected with them over Instagram, again, kind of invited them to some of these influencer or content creator events, and they've gotten to the point where they're a strong partner of us now. Now they host events at the preserves with us, and they continue to spread awareness about the agency, all just because of those connections that we've built with them. So I promised I would get to go back to outreach collateral. Again, like everything else, we're continuously exploring new ways and new media to engage the public. So trying to keep our giveaways educational and useful and relevant. Those are kind of our big qualifiers that we like to hit with all of them. So some of the examples you see on the screen, I mentioned that Zigzag Why Protect Nature brochure. In the past year or so, we created these wildlife safety brochures. You can see, a couple of places on the screen. Those are in English, Vietnamese, Spanish, and Chinese, which is great, trying to do more and more multilingual content. We have our bike bells that we give out, sunglasses for both kids and adults, our illustrated preserve posters and postcards, poppy seeds, many, many more. So we like to do these sponsored giveaways at family-friendly and cultural events, ones that we're at and that we host, and ones that might be hosted by local organizations such as Children's Discovery Museum. For example, actually, Elena and I were just at the Post Wild and Scenic Film Festival this past Saturday. So her and I hosted the Open Space Authority's booth, and it was really exciting to see attendees come up and be so excited about getting the poppy seeds and getting the posters, and taking a little bit of Open Space Authority back home with them. So again, we're always looking for more opportunities, different types of collateral. As Charlotte mentioned before, we work really closely with the volunteer and educational team to both do that and find the events to actually go to, and then also have this collateral. So again, it's a multi-departmental effort. Usually the more heads up we have, the better. But yeah, let us know if you ever have any ideas for, again, these collateral pieces or fun giveaways.
Okay, so these are some examples of how we collaborate with departments across the agency to strengthen public access to all of the work that we're doing. So, by working with all of our different teams, we're aiming to keep really consistent branding and messaging to connect the community to all aspects of the Open Space Authority, whether it's acquisitions, preserve updates, conservation projects, educational programs, events, all of those. So, the examples up here, just a few. There are more that we just couldn't fit on the slide, but I wanted to point out the photo on the top left. It shows one of our new bilingual signs up at Sierra Vista Open Space Preserve. So this is something that we worked on with the North County field team and our ethnic media consultants. Some of our Spanish-speaking field staff members identified a need for certain signage and materials to be available in Spanish out there. So in response, we worked to develop new signage, and we also developed this one-page FAQ to help non-Spanish speaking staff better communicate just some of the really important safety information. So why is it important to stay on the trail? Not only to prevent people from getting lost, but also, avoiding potential hazards like rattlesnakes and ticks. So yeah, that's a collaboration that we have with, the field team that we're really happy to see staff kind of coming to us to say, I think we can do this better. That's really exciting to us. The Urban Grant Program, calling that out. We did a press release for that last week that got a little media coverage. We're definitely excited to do a lot more media around that, especially as awards are going out next year. So more to come there. Keep things moving. We're looking ahead. We got lots of really exciting projects happening over the summer. Definitely happy to answer questions, about all of these, but I kind of just wanted to point out what's coming up in the next couple of weeks that I'm really excited about. I think we're all really excited about it. So we'll be collaborating with Rachel Clemens. She's our watershed restoration specialist. And she is, we're going to be sharing some stories about some really impactful on the ground restoration work that's going to be supporting the long-term goals of the Coyote Valley Conservation Areas Master Plan, as well as some new stock pond restoration work happening out at Rancho Cañada del Oro. So I don't want to give away too much, but definitely keep an eye on our social media. There's going to be some incredible turtle content. Yeah.
Okay, so this feels like a little bit of a silly slide because as members of the CAC, you're already kind of top level tier in involvement. But if you're ever craving to get even more involved with the agency, there's so many ways to do that, specifically through communications. Staying informed is the easiest one, right? If you're following us on social media or you're getting and actually opening and reading our newsletters, that is a really, really easy thing to do. Amplifying the messaging, again, through sharing the newsletter or sharing a post on Instagram, or even just talking. Word of mouth is such an important way to spread awareness of our agency's work. Kind of mentioned it already before, but connecting digitally, again, our website, social media, all these ways that we're really active digitally. So get involved with us there. Bringing ideas and collaborating and sharing. Again, I've mentioned them before, whether that's photos or ideas for a story on our newsletter or a blog. So many ways that our ears are always open to you. Again, give us a call, meet with us in person, send us a DM or an email. We're just happy to chat. And that's the best way to just continuing to be really creative. Is the more voices, the better. Supporting outreach efforts. So although our volunteer team is the one that actually coordinates that, we know that they're always happy to have CAC members come out and support the booth. I like that we got this photo of Joe actually at an event last year, I think. Again, it's a great way. And personally for me, I'm so often in the office doing work behind the computer. So when I get the chance to actually go out and interact with the public and see how our work is actually impacting people, it just really rejuvenates my passion for what we do. And get involved in content creation. So again, this is exactly what Mara has helped us out with for videos. Again, that opportunity is open for everyone. So there's kind of limitless. This is just even a small sampling, tip of the iceberg of how you can connect and get involved even more with our communications. And at this point, I want to ask Mark if you have anything to add.
Thanks, Anne Marie. So Mark Landgraf, Assistant General Manager. Just as you could probably guess, I'm really proud of our communications team. So just a couple of examples of feedback that I've received recently on some of the content that they produced is, the zigzag brochure that they were talking about. I think you've all seen it. Many staff were at the Together Bay Area Conference in San Francisco last week, and the Deputy Director of Sonoma County Parks, Melanie Parker, who's also the board chair for Together Bay Area, she went gaga over this, and she wanted to give this to her staff to say, we need to produce something that's really unique like this because it really stands out in people's minds. She really liked that aspect of it. And then regarding our social media content, last week I saw our Assembly member Gail Pellerin, who's been a really strong supporter of our work. And she remarked on the social media content, how creative and fun it is. And it's, there's so many things going on in the world. Like you said, there's everything's saturated out there with posts and content, but when it's fun and creative, it becomes very appealing. And so she's directing her staff to follow in the footsteps of the Open Space Authority to do more creative content like that. So just some terrific examples of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. That's so nice. Appreciate the feedback. At this point, if you all have feedback, questions, suggestions right now, we're happy to hear it.
Yes, Allison, then Lauren. That was a great presentation. I'm always amazed by somebody who's not on social media, but all of the really clever and creative stuff that I'm seeing in these presentations. I was at one of the outreach events and I got to thinking because somebody that came up to the booth asked if they had never heard of Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority, but they had heard of Mid-Penn. And it got me thinking, is there cross-pollination between the media, the communications teams at the open space to help amplify messages? Because I think it just got me thinking like, oh, she's heard of Mid-Penn, but she lived here in Morgan Hill. So I wasn't sure if there was any sort of crosstalk between the organizations and sharing of best practices and stuff. And the poppy seeds were the biggest hit of the entire event. Those people go bananas for them. So those were great.
Through the chair. We definitely value our partnerships with the Mid-Penn teams, Post. We do communicate with their communication staff, our counterparts there. We've seen some great amplification of our work through their media. There were some recent articles about Post acquisitions that mentioned us. And there was on the media slide, I don't know, I guess we could go back. There was Nick Perry was featured, and that was, bottom left. That was an article that was primarily about Post acquisition, but we were invited to participate in a media interview. So they're definitely helping us leverage some of that cross-pollination that you're talking about. And we want to do a lot more of it too. So that's a great point. And yeah, and we want to keep it up.
Lauren?
I love the bells, but they're not just for bikers. If you're hiking alone at dawn, they're a great way to feel safe that you're not surprising any mountain lions. And I know that kind of expands the bell budget, but runners, hikers, bikers all love the bells.
Roller skaters as well too, so just put that in there. Did you have a response?
Through the chair.
Yes.
Thanks for the feedback on the bells. We're always kind of looking for new ideas for giveaways, especially things that are functional. So, my brain kind of went to like safety whistles, things like that. So it's definitely something for us to think about. And, certainly the bells were in there to give people a way to communicate out on the trails, but love to hear that they're being used for other useful things, other safety reasons. Thank you.
Thank you. Justin, then Joe, then Edward.
You mentioned the Bay Area Ridge Trail realignment. Can you talk a little bit about that, or maybe tell us where we can find some maps that shows these realignments?
Through the chair. Paul Rogers, an environmental reporter with the Mercury News, he just published an article about this over the weekend. And so I'm happy to share that out with board CUC staff. And it does have a map and we'll show some of the realignment. Yeah.
Thank you. Joe, then Edward.
Yes, I just did an outreach event not that long ago, and whenever I go to one of those, I always check all the other booths to see what options they have available. There again, the poppy seeds were great. The thing I noticed that we don't have is, a pen. And it's, if you get a bulk amount, how many times does someone just pick up a pen, look at what's on there, and then start writing? And if you have that right in front of you, it's going to make it more available and maybe stick in their head. Just a thought.
Through the chair?
Yeah.
Love the pen suggestion. Thank you. Yeah, we love hearing all these suggestions for things that can, help us better engage out in the community. So that's great. Thanks.
Poppy seeds, yes, very popular. I just did the Asian Hawaiian Pacific Islander thing last weekend, and those are a real hit. And I think we do, like Joe said, need a few more pieces of swag, cheap swag, hopefully, but more. A lot of these places do have other things and people are looking for freebies. So just an idea. I'll try and think of some stuff too, but yeah, very good idea. keep the poppy seeds coming too. And then I have a question about what you're saying about the earned versus paid advertising. Is earned advertising when you put out a press release and then they pick up on it willingly?
Through the
Or,
chair.
I'm not quite clear on.
Yes, so earned media are our efforts like putting out media advisories and press releases and doing pitching. And sometimes reporters will come to us with ideas or things that they want to cover, versus the paid advertisements, which, you know, we're compiling and putting together the messaging and figuring out which outlet we want to put them in.
Okay, so it's them seeking you out plus press releases that you put out that they respond to or report on. Okay, thank you.
Masana? Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation and congrats on all the great work that you're doing on social media and on your email campaigns. My question is around live streaming. Have you considered that? What type of work are you doing around it? I bring it up only because I'm fascinated with the bald eagles in Southern California. So I wonder if there's space for that here.
You want to take that one?
Yeah. Through the chair.
Yes.
So to clarify, are you talking about like live cams where you can kind of tune in whenever, or live streamed events?
Like
Live cams. Yeah, we have talked about in the past potentially doing them. Again, this is kind of brainstorm sessions. Set them up maybe at Laguna Seca. We haven't done any like hard planning on that yet. It would definitely be a we'd be working with field staff to make sure that the cams are set up in a place that we even have the right cameras, that they're set up in a place where they're not going to be messed with. But I love that idea. I think it could be really fun to have. I also watch the Eagles too, and that whole story. And I think it would be really cool to have, one that's so specific to the Open Space Authority. So I'll write it down.
I have a comment. So I have several, so I was taking notes of my sticky tab. I guess my first comment is just wow in watching your website and your digital footprint and your social medias evolve from the years that I've been part of the CAC. And I did a little acronym for you. So wow, the first W is for wonder, because I'm always wondering what's going to be posted for the week, or how can I can engage, or it makes me think about something. I definitely have my favorite posts in terms of wildflowers. I love when you are looking at the dresses or fanfare from the red carpets and just how creative those ones are, and I've seen a lot of social posts on those too, so thank you. That's so W for wonder. And then the O is ownership, and really feeling like the brand is taking vision. I don't even sometimes I'll see something come across my screen, I don't even have to know it came from you, and I know it came from you. And so I think that is great, that there's ownership in that branding, and then your people that are engaging know like the new look and feel. So congratulations there. And then the last W is for wide variety. I think you do have a wide variety of content. There's something for everyone to engage in. And I really do love seeing the non-pitched media stuff happening that comes across my feed as well too. So it seems like, again, your branding is getting out. So that's my wow, congratulations there. And I have some ideas in terms of key messaging and CAC members as well too. You had several key messages up there. You have several CAC members here. Who connects and resonates with each of those messages, and how can we as a board and as citizens help to support and encourage and enhance those as well too with our own visibilities? I think calling on what we like to do already. We know Joe's a volunteer, so he's going to be out there. So maybe that's an area where you focus with each of us to sit down and see what resonates with us and where we can continue to be more visible in that. My last comment was, are your videos in other languages too? I love engaging with them. I hear that you're working with an ethnic media advisory, so really wanting to make sure that those videos are also in other languages so that your constituents can continue to engage and interact at that same level.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Thank you so much for all of this feedback and all of your comments. We really appreciate it, and we're taking a lot of notes. Regarding videos in other languages, that's definitely something that we want to expand upon. In the past, we've done subtitles in other languages, and we really want to do more of the actual voiceover in other languages. We we actually have been partnering with Bay Area older adults. They have some volunteers who speak other languages, and they've already done a couple of videos for us in, is it Vietnamese and Chinese? That we're in the process of uploading to our YouTube. Yeah. So yes, we definitely want to do more of that and put more resources into the visuals. So thank you.
That's wonderful to hear. I look forward to seeing those videos. And Edward has a follow-up.
One more, somebody jogged my memory on something. Our next door neighbor Booth there last weekend had previously used 360 photo booth. Have you heard of those? They're the camera that spins around on the platform. Okay. And also some AI generated app where you could insert yourself into various wildlife, whatever we could choose that we want to attract some attention that people could insert themselves into. If you talk to Kat, she can probably give you a little more information about it if she hasn't already. But I thought that was a really great idea, because that would probably go out onto all kinds of social media and get spread out quite a bit. Get the logo and some wildlife with a bunch of people in it, whatever you wanted to.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Love the feedback, love new media technology. We're always curious about new things that are out there. So thank you.
It was pretty impressive. He was showing us all these things that it generated, both the AI app and the 360 booth. So
Cool. Okay, Beth has a comment too.
Hi, thank you for everything you showed us here. I wanted to add in terms of swag that I think the sunglasses we have are really useful. In particular at my Anawakma, whole groups of families and whatnot would show up and it's like super sunny, no one has sunglasses. And so they grab them up, and I think it like has a meaningfully big impact on how much they're gonna enjoy the hike, because that's like a really exposed preserve. So I'm just really happy that we have this available. Yeah. Another thing that comes to mind when I was doing a table event just this past weekend is when I mentioned that these events are free, people like totally lit up when I said like you can come on these things I'm talking about and it costs nothing and parking is free, and they just seem to like double in their level of excitement. So I feel like that's a theme that I haven't at least noticed in our messaging that I think would go a long way with a lot of people because budgets are tight. And then my last question more at the tabling events. Typically, I think what we're doing is handing out pamphlets and stuff, which I kind of fear might just get lost in the backseat of the car. And I'm wondering, is it too much if we ask them right there, like follow us on Instagram or Facebook, and then you can have the sticker, or sign up here, give me your email, and then you can have the sunglasses. Because I think that would guarantee that they're engaging with that triangle you showed us, the funnel that you're trying to get them into.
Through the chair. Thank you. Wonderful suggestions. We love the feedback. It's great to hear about how people are interacting with the outreach booths and ways that we can coordinate with the volunteer team to maybe come up with some new ideas and ways to do the giveaways. We do have what's the social media sheet that we give? We have a QR code that we put in a booth, in the booth kits usually, that's like laminated, and it's usually available, but the idea of asking somebody to take an action before they get handed something is certainly something that we could explore with the volunteer team to boost some of that engagement.
You have a follow-up at Valley Water. We do that for our flood preparedness kits. We make them download the flood safety app, make sure that they have their plan, and they show that up to us and get their flood safety kit. So I think it's a great way to do that. Like Beth said, that in-person interaction right there, however you want to push them to whatever social channels or whatnot as well too. Are there any other comments or questions, public comments at this time? There are none. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
thank you.
All right, now we're going to receive the presentation from Mark Landgraf regarding open spaces funding and measure status report.
Good evening, CAC members. Mark Landgraf, Assistant General Manager. I know we still have this and then one other item tonight, so I'm going to keep it relatively short, but I want to make sure I leave plenty of time for questions. So please do save up your questions as we go along here. So tonight, I have before you an update from our board ad hoc committee on financial sustainability regarding exploration of a June 2026 funding measure. Hopefully it's as interesting as the presentation that just took place, but I don't know.
Don't beg for applause.
Anyway, so this is our agenda for the presentation here, and there is information in your board packet. There's going to be a little bit of a recap, other words, a repeat of what you heard from Andrea in March, but just to emphasize the main points of the need for the investment, a little update on the financial forecast we've been doing. I think really interesting voter survey results from EMC Research. A little update on what we're doing for outreach. Charlotte and her team already mentioned some of what we're doing on public education, and then feedback from the CAC as well as from other sources on the expenditure plan and what we're doing with that, and then a little bit of background context on other measures that may come about in 2026. So I think you're aware of the need, just to emphasize that with climate resilience, there's just increased urgency in the work that we do to protect nature and to protect our communities from wildfire, drought, flood, extreme heat. These are all things that the natural and working lands that we protect around the urban edge help to provide for our communities. They're really important services. In addition to that, of course, clean air, clean water, a place to recreate, aesthetic view shed, so many things that we provide, but those costs keep going up. We're now managing over twice as many or almost twice as many acres as we were in 2014 when our last funding measure took place. We're seeing increased public access demand. So over 300,000 people visited our preserves in 2024. In short, we're just seeing growing responsibilities on more lands with greater urgency. So I think you saw this chart before, if I'm not mistaken, back in March. So it's the same information, but just to emphasize that we've got growing costs every year. These are projections, even without capital expenditures. So no vehicles, no facilities, no new land acquisitions. These are just ongoing, like mainly stewardship and maintenance costs for our agency. And the yellow line there is the reserve that we've built up over the years that we have just for this purpose, but that is going to run out if we don't do something. I want to emphasize too that we've always been very frugal with our revenues. We consider the tax dollars that are generated by our constituents very dear. So we make good use of them. We're always pay as you go. We've never incurred any debt. And we've been even dropping the amount we've been budgeting each year in the last 2 years. And hopefully our proposal to the board will be accepted, and that's going to also be very modest. We've also brought in more than 180 million in outside grant funding that leverages our local tax dollars. So not only do we spend our own revenues very efficiently, we bring in outside funding to do the work that we do. I think you saw this curve before too, but as just a quick reminder, we've been assessing with our consultants the tax mechanisms that could work for us in the future. This one that seems like the most viable option for us would be 1.5 cents, 2 cents, or 2.5 cents per building square foot in a given parcel. That way we have not only a progressive tax where the average homeowner would pay less than if we had a flat partial tax, which is what our current mechanism is, but it also grows over time as development in urban areas increases. This table clarifies some information that you saw last time. Especially what I want to point out is, like, if you take that center column of 2 cents per building square foot, it shows the revenue that would be generated, 17 million in the first year and an estimated 20 million after 20 years. And the average cost, well, let me say the cost to the owner of the average home. So 1,600 square foot home would be $32 a year. And, people don't need more taxes. I understand that, but it's pretty modest given the benefit that we provide to the public, we feel anyway. And especially the point I want to make here is the comparison to the equivalent flat parcel tax. If we charged every single parcel in our jurisdiction the same amount, it would be $56, not $32. So if we can manage to do this building per square foot mechanism, we're saving most of those homeowners quite a bit of money. So with that 2 cents per square foot, this is what the revenue line turns into. So much more feasible for, not forever, but for a good deal of time into the future. So now I wanted to go into the voter survey results. And so most of this information was presented to our board at the April meeting. So if you were at the board meeting or listened into it or watched the YouTube afterwards, this information was in there. And if you like Jessica's presentation better than mine, you're welcome to just go back and watch that, but it's going to be pretty much the same information. So the survey was done by EMC Research. Jessica Polsky-Sanchez presented that to our board. We've been working with her and her firm for many years, and we've had really good, consistent results. So the interview took place the week of March 24th and included 500 interviews through a number of different methods, the mixed mode telephone and web methodology that's described up there. And so the margin of error is 4.4 percentage points plus or minus, and it was done in 4 different languages. Just for context, pollsters mentioned that, yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty out there, and these were the headlines during that week in March that the poll was taken. So that does play into what we're seeing in terms of people's tax sensitivity, uncertainty for the economic future of the country, et cetera. And that shows in the poll results. So as a summary of the key findings, they did mention that there's a slight improvement in voters' overall outlook. And I'll show you this data here in some upcoming slides shortly. But 60% of people expect the economic conditions in 6 months to be worse. And so, that really does have an impact on people's thoughts about a new tax that's being proposed. So tax sensitivity continues. Many people are saying, in fact, a pretty significant majority, that they would vote against any tax measure, although a little bit of foreshadowing here, that does change when they hear about our particular tax measure. But the initial response to our ballot question is 50%. And as an agency to place this measure on the ballot, we would need 2/3 because it's a special tax. So we're pretty far away from that, although as you'll see in the data, it does rise with additional information that was given during the survey. And then there's some information that I'll show you about voter priorities related to the kind of work that we do. And a significant point here is that information about the average cost really helps people understand what it would mean to them. Because if you tell them 1.5 cents per building square foot, not everybody's going to do the math in their head right away to understand how many dollars that translates to for them. So that clarification, that extra information is super important. So this is a question that was asked consistently. You can see all the way back to 2012. So we get a read over time of people's tendencies to think things generally in Santa Clara County are going on the right track. This is not relevant to our agency or our work. This is just generally in Santa Clara County. And if you look at that blue line where 2 years ago it was at 26% in 2023, and this last poll in March was 51%. So people are happier about how things are going in Santa Clara County. And our consultants thought, there's still a lot of tax sensitivity and uncertainty about the future, but maybe they feel better about things locally here in Santa Clara County than compared with elsewhere. That was their sort of their hypothesis on why this has gone up so significantly. And I can mention that other polls that we've heard about in the region show pretty similar results, so it's not an anomaly. But as I mentioned, the economic outlook is something that people are fairly negative about. So 60% of people feel that the economy is going to be worse in 6 months. These are top issues for people. Very understandably, homelessness, affordable housing are top of mind. And if you look the second from the bottom, environment, pollution, it was only 2% of folks that said that was their top issue. So it's not the top issue for people. Even if it's something that's very important, it's not the top issue for people. And this is the question I mentioned. 63% feel that taxes are high enough. I'm not going to vote for any tax increase. Also quite understandable. Trust in the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority has improved over the last few years. And I think part of that is because our communications is getting the word out about what we do and the good things that we provide to the community. I have to say very honestly, the question was also asked differently this time, because in the past it was about trust in the funds spent for the Open Space Authority. And so now it's just, I trust the Open Space Authority. It's a much simpler question, but so we have to take a little bit of that change in the way the question was asked into account. So this is the result to the question about the ballot question, and it was done in a split sample, so we could test 1.5 cents per square foot versus 2.5 cents per square foot. And you can see there's essentially no difference. It's 50% either way. Just for comparison's sakes, these are past results at times that we were considering or actually did go to the ballot. So the blue bars there in 2014 and 2020 are those that are the actual election results from those measures, 68% for Measure Q in 2014. And you can see that the most recent poll before that came in at 60%, and that's in comparison to the initial 50% that we're seeing in the poll in March. As I mentioned, having a little bit more information about what 1.5 cents or 2.5 cents means to you, that makes a big difference to people, because then they can really see what their average cost might be. So if once they were told that, well, 1.5 cents really means for the average home, that's going to be $24 a year. So then the yes vote went up by 7% on the $24 and 5% up on the $39. So a significant increase. So just clarity is so critically important. These are various questions about the types of things that we do to benefit the public, and what things are most important. For the first time since we've started doing this polling, water is not at the top of the list. Usually water quality, water quantity are top of mind for people from environmental benefits, but reducing catastrophic wildfire risk by removing hazardous brush, that is very important. And understandably, this was only 2 months after the fires in LA that were so catastrophic. So that's still top of mind for folks from other polling that we've heard about. These are some more results of things that are important to people. I mean, they're all fairly close statistically, but there is some prioritization that comes out of the voting. So this is the overall vote progression. Initially, as you saw, people's response to the ballot question was 50% support. It went up to 57 or 55 respectively with cost information. And then when they were given more positive messaging, went up a little bit more, so almost to 60%. And then it went down with negative messaging, right back down to where it started. So that says if there were a measure on the ballot, we can't really tolerate any paid opposition to it. So that's the voter information. I'm going to provide a little bit more background, but then I'm kind of going through this quickly, but I want to do that because I want to leave time for questions. So hang with me just a few more minutes. So these are the conclusions that the pollsters drew, similar to what we talked about before. We get support up to nearly 60% with all the positive messaging, but that's still not at 2/3. So some other things that are mentioned in your CAC memo, and I wanted to elaborate on just a bit, is that because we're considering this building square footage tax, we're reaching out to different representatives of the business communities, some large corporations, also some smaller business owners, some associations that represent a number of businesses or property owners, and so far have received relatively, well, let's say not super positive. There aren't a lot of corporations that are going to say, yeah, I really want to pay another tax. They get the benefit of what we're talking about and the benefit not just to their own bottom line, but to their employees and, those that they care about in the community. But it's, actually even neutrality in many cases is great. If they're okay with it, they understand the cost versus benefit, and some are actually very supportive. There are others that are less supportive, and so we're trying to see if there's a way to either select a tax rate or consider some other option that might be more amenable for those that would consider possibly opposing a measure. So one idea that's come up that we're talking about with our consultants is a cap on the top amount that any one parcel would be charged. So as I mentioned, an average home would pay $24 or $49 or $39. Maybe there's a, $10,000, $20,000 cap per parcel. That's far and away from anything that a homeowner would be considering to pay, but a large business owner might. So there might be ways to manage that. So we're doing that outreach to to let people know what we're exploring and to see what the best mix of possibilities is. We are also, as Charlotte and her team had described, building public awareness about nature and about the Open Space Authority, so more people are aware of what we do. So many examples of increased reach, especially in those areas where we've had barriers from linguistic isolation or other barriers in the past. So we will continue to do that regardless. I think that's important for our agency, for our future, but it also helps in the event that we're going to place a measure on the ballot next year. We've also been receiving really important feedback on not just the expenditure plan, but the measure itself. And I think you all provided some really good feedback that Andrea recorded. I think one key piece of feedback that was really helpful. I mean, it was all helpful to us, but that was that especially had an impact on what we're doing in our future messaging for exploration of a measure. Is the feedback was essentially, well, how are you going to spend the money that comes from a tax if it does pass, right? How do we know it's going to be spent responsibly? How do we know we can trust you? And what categories is that money going to be spent on? And so as an agency, we're a little bit hesitant to put dollar brackets around each of the categories because we want to have the flexibility to respond to market needs, to price changes, and to what climate brings our way. So what we are doing is an analysis of expenditures on measures Q and T since they were passed, so the past 10 years. And we're still refining those numbers. We hope to have the actual, maybe a chart and a pie chart to present to our board on Thursday. So I apologize, we don't have that completely finalized yet. But just roughly, over that time period, we've expended $54 million from measures Q and T over those 10 years. About 10% of that is administrative costs. That's pretty tight. So that's actually a really good figure to let the public know about. And that's something that we're working on messaging around. 37%, so almost 20 million, went to land protection. Of course, real estate is very expensive and we leverage that with outside funding, but a significant portion of it went to protecting the land. And then another 28% on restoration and stewardship. So between protecting the land and then stewarding it, that's over half the funding that went to those activities. And that's really the core of our business. Well, business, I mean, we're a public agency, but what we deliver to the public. We spent 14% of those funds on new trail facilities, 7% on our urban grant program, and 4% on environmental education, also things that are really important to the public. So anyway, we're putting those numbers together and we think that'll help deliver the message that, hey, you voted and passed these measures over the past 10 years. This is how we responsibly spent your funds. You can trust us to spend those responsibly in the future. That's kind of the message that we would put together for it. All right, one more slide, and then I'll take questions. So just wanted to give a little more context for other agencies that are potentially considering a 2026 measure, because we got to know what else is going to be out there. The competition, if you want to think of it that way, or how they're responding to changing economic conditions. That's also very helpful for us to know. So Valley Transportation Authority presented to their board at their May 1st meeting. They also did a voter survey using EMC Research, same company that we used. And the polling was done in April. 70% of those respondents said there's a great need for more funding for transportation, yet just over half said that they would support an actual funding measure. So they know that there's a need for funding for better, public transit, but then when it comes to actually paying for it, of course, I mean, that's the burden that people have to consider if they want to bear. So that polling was for an 1/8 cent or a 1/2 cent sales tax that would include proceeds for VTA, but also for BART and Caltrain. And they were looking at either 2026 or 2028. So sales tax is very different than what we're looking at, but that's what they're considering. Separately, Caltrain is also doing their own polling. They were looking at a sales tax, but then also at a parcel tax. So I just, as you're probably all thinking, there are a lot of taxes that are being considered out there. For transportation, I doubt that these agencies would go out separately. It's just too confusing to people and just too much. So they're probably doing their own research and then will consolidate if they do decide to move forward with a measure. So I don't think there would be multiple transportation measures on the same ballot that people in Santa Clara County would see. That's just my personal opinion, though. So, of course, there was a housing bond that was initially slated for the November 2024 ballot, but that got pulled just a few months before the election. It's very possible that another housing measure would come up, but I haven't heard anything specific about that yet. And you may have seen in San Jose Spotlight or other news stories that San Jose, the City of San Jose Parks Department is also considering a measure. They were looking at a 1 cent per building square foot. I don't know if they're looking at other instruments as well, but they're considering a measure for 2026 as well. So that's what we know of so far. I mean, if anybody else has information on any of those measures, I'd be interested to hear. And then I'm willing to take questions. So first I want to turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for the presentation. Looks like Steve has something to contribute, so now is a great time for comments.
So actually, just one was the clarification on this last slide. Do you know what San Jose Parks intended to do with the money?
Through the chair, my understanding is primarily a backlog of maintenance. I don't know if there are new parks that they're proposing. I think it's mostly taking care of what they've got.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody else has.
You go now, way earlier in your slide, at the very beginning, you showed an economic slide, which said, here's our expenses going through the roof.
Mhm.
No, they aren't. Your expenses are not going through the roof. You have a budget, you have to manage your budget. Your hope is that your expenses will go through the roof. And that would only come through funding. The reality is I'll have to come back and say, Mark, I need to know what your plan is to manage that budget. I guess what I'm trying to get to is I would focus on the positive, and you did that really very well through the presentation. But I would, if I could ever say the word never talk about the reason we want to do this is because expenses are going up. What I see with the OSA is that the results have been astounding. We started on a promise. We delivered on that promise. The results have been outstanding. We were in the right place at the right time for COVID and for the mental health of the people in the Santa Clara Valley. And there is much more we can do in this valley that's growing. But if you come to me and say, Steve, expenses are going up, yeah, mine are too, go away. Yeah, that's just not interesting to me. And everyone, and so one is the expense, the other is you got a real strong card with trust and delivering. And I don't want to throw mud, but the other potential measures, you've got a much stronger message in trust and delivery than they do. I think.
Oh, you're saying
We have
that
to protect that.
the Open Space Authority has
Oh, yes.
good trust, yeah.
Mark.
I would,
You can walk.
I would agree, yeah.
OSA in addition to you.
Okay.
The OSA also has.
No, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking
Okay.
about the Open Space Authority.
The Open Space Authority has,
Yeah.
I think, a lot of credibility.
Okay, no,
That
thank
would be
you.
My 2 points.
Yeah, thank you very much for the comments. And I can say, I'm doing my best to be transparent here for all of you, and that helps bring in comments like yours. When we deliver messages to the public, of course, that public education is about the accomplishments and the benefits to the public, why nature is good for you and your family, and here's what we've been doing. Yeah, totally agree.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, I believe Bob and then Edward.
So I think what we're doing is wonderful. My comments against San Jose Parks. I manage a community garden right next to the largest encampment, and I'm on the mayor's unhoused. I'm on 7 more committees. The point is that they can't keep up with the work. Nobody ever guessed how much it would cost to be unhoused. I don't want to make it sound like they damage everything, but they're not particularly good at keeping things neat and tidy and whatever. This Columbus Park alone was $43 million in cleanup. So maintenance is a problem and everything else, and they're trying to take the money and spend it in different areas. So parks and maintenance are almost one and the same at this point, and they're short-staffed and everything. So they're trying to think if that would work. And I just say clean the problem up. That will make it go away.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes,
I
Edward.
like I said, but it's true.
We'll do Edward and then Joe.
Yeah, hi, Mark, a question about your pie chart regarding the Q&T. Since I'm doing a lot of the outreach programs and people are coming up to me and asking me, where do we get our money? And if you could present something like a pie chart that I could say, okay, this is where we get our money and this is what it was, going for and where it got spent to, it would be a lot clearer for them to be able to understand that. And then number two is how would that be available for me or anyone else to get that information?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, through the chair. Really good comment, Joe. I really appreciate that. Especially, adding in the revenue that we receive, not just what we spend, but this is the money that's coming from Measure Q and Measure T. And so we've already talked with our communications folks about putting a piece of a collateral piece together that would have that information on it. That's really easy to see. We're just still refining all the numbers, so don't quite have it yet.
I just want to say that those comments that Steve made are excellent. Avoid that phrase about expenses increasing and stress the phrase of how we capitalize, get three or four bucks out of every dollar that we receive. We can leverage it. Really harp on that. And then a little off topic, but have regarding outside grants, has anyone here investigated the VTA Measure B fund program, the grant program there for bike and ped in particular? I'm on a VTA oversight committee for the Measure B funds. And there's a bicycle and pedestrian category in there that could, what I can tell, could probably be used for projects, especially in Coyote Valley, because you have the county highway on Santa Teresa. There's a super bike highway in the planning stages on Monterey Highway all the way down to Gilroy, which could somehow interface with overcrossing, undercrossings, overcrossings, or the entire stretch there. So I don't know who applies for our outside grants.
Yeah, through the chair. I can definitely mention that to our grants team. Megan Drager is leading that team. Yeah. And they usually are very on top of what sources of funding are out there for the type of work that we do, but I'll mention that specifically to them, especially as you said, for Coyote Valley.
Yeah, I think bike and ped would be the only one that we would qualify for. And some of those grants need to be, you would have to partner with one of the 15 cities or the county or VTA itself. But if they don't do so, you can partner with them. So
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
No, I'll mention it to her.
To Megan and tell her to shoot me an email if she wants. I can throw together a little more info.
Okay, will do.
Thank you.
All right, Lauren, then Allison.
So Steve's comments got me to thinking, but you made the distinction between OpEx and CapEx, and that it was the ongoing expenses that we're trying to deal with. What extent is that discretionary? Like, and what I mean is like we can, because of the nature of the work we do, and that's a giant we can be more aggressive with things like weed control or trail maintenance, like we can just do a not as good job and it's cheaper, right? Like, again, thinking about how Steve says, don't say, that your expenses are going up. I mean, to some extent, it seems like we do or should have some control over our operating expenses. So I think, again, kind of piggybacking off Steve, that seems kind of almost like a woe is me, and I'm, fiscally out of control. So to what extent are those costs really, really, really fixed?
Yeah, through the chair. Do you want to take that, Lee? Thank you.
You're right. Certain costs are more discretionary and we could do less and it would cost a little less, right?
But one of the things to remember is that we started back in 2014 with approximately 16,000 acres, right? And we're now up to close to 30. We have a lot more coming to us. So while certain tasks could be reduced or eliminated, we have more acres to maintain. So when you multiply out even lower costs per for land management, it's still an increasing number. We did a very interesting exercise in putting our budget together this year, well, the last couple of years, and we have rebucketed things as to what is non-discretionary. We've got to keep the lights on, we have to pay people, we need insurance, that sort of thing. What is what we really believe makes our work better, easier, so prioritized discretionary funds and then discretionary. And we'll be presenting the budget to the board on June 12th. You'll see a little bit of that information in that presentation, but there quite a bit of it is very difficult to cut without our work looking very different to the public. But that is discretionary.
And if I can, just a quick follow-up, like, I totally get all that.
Yeah.
And then again, just to expand on comments that have already been made, all the more reason like a pie chart, right? Like,
Yes.
like to demonstrate, like Steve said, we're getting $4 out of every 3, and this is how we're doing it. Like,
Right.
because
Yeah.
because I guess it's not completely clear to me, like, if we develop land for, that sounds capital to me, if we develop land for public access, but then once it's developed, the ongoing maintenance is now that's OpEx. So we at some point make a choice to spend the CapEx but we've chosen to increase our OpEx going forward. So yeah, all this, I think we get that that we're doing it right, but again, to further points that have been made here, it's not, sometimes it doesn't sound like, sometimes it's not always clear. Okay.
Yeah.
Allison? I'm gonna play devil's advocate for a minute, which is, I think, and I think we all agree that the leveraging of additional funds that we bring in through grants and stuff is outstanding. I think that could be a problematic message in the media or in the, as part of this campaign. And the reason I say that is because if I'm Joe Q Public, not this Joe, but like, and I hear like, if you're bringing in $4 for every dollar, then why do you need my tax dollars? And so I think thinking about how is that a critical part of our message? And if so, how many, in the bell-shaped curve of Santa Clara Valley residents, how many people that's a complicated story to tell about how well we spend our money and how much we bring in. And so I think I would caution us about using that messaging in a political camp or in a ballot measure. The other question is, it's very helpful. I think the pie chart idea is great because when I am at these booths and I'm saying like, we steward land, people's eyes glaze over. So being able to really concretely tell in the things that they tell us they care about, right? Which is like decreasing wildfire risk, increasing water quality, and increasing wildlife protection. How do those land stewardship, land acquisition, those buckets actually translate into the things that they're telling us they care about? And that for us as volunteers, I think helps tell the story in a really tangible way about like, this is how your wildfire risk is decreased. We did mitigation work of, harmful materials, X number of miles, like really concrete things that allow us to tell the story to the people who stop by the booths and the people who we interact with in other ways. So.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, no, I really appreciate both of those points. Let me respond to the first one. And I very much agree with you. We got to be careful about how we deliver that message. And I think I may have been remiss in glossing over how we use the outside leverage, that funding that we bring in, because, that outside funding pays for capital expenses. That's part of why we didn't include it in that chart of rising operational expenses, because you know, we can buy land with that outside funding. We can even build public access facilities. We can do major restoration projects, but we can't do the ongoing stewardship. That is only from our own tax revenues. And so that's why and that stewardship and the other restoration, the minor restoration projects there are so many of, that is key to keeping those lands resilient so that we can protect our communities. So we have to refine those messages for sure, but I think you make a really good point that we want to have that distinction really clear so they don't think, yeah, we're going to be good with all this outside funding. That's not the case. Yeah. And then the other one too about, I think maybe that's something we can consider as we are developing messages, especially that are specific around the funding measure and for the collateral piece with the pie chart is testing some of those with some of with the folks here. You know, they have such great inputs and thoughts about how those messages are received, and they would help us identify maybe some of the holes we have to plug. Yeah, appreciate that a lot.
I have a comment. I think, well, I wrote as you were talking, one of the very first slides, taxes. It equals not the money, but the message. But I think that completely resonated with what everyone was saying here tonight is, you know, really wanted to make sure that the messaging is clear as why taxes are increasing. But again, it's not the money, like 2 cents, 1 cent, you know, okay, it's pennies, right? But what really is that going to do? And how is that going to impact? And then that got me to my other point of impactful slides that goes right along with Joe wanting an amazing PowerPoint, is that there's some really great tools that you can employ. Like I know through Canva, one of the things that I'm doing with my team is taking our very boring spreadsheets, popping it into Canva and having it interactive pivot tables. So as those percentages are being talked about and talking points, you're seeing the pie charts interacting and moving as well too. That's just a really engaging way to have that information being shared as well too. I'm not sure how you do that at a boothing event, but even having a little a gadget or something to go along with what Ed was saying, you know, maybe making it a little more interactive as well too. So as people are asking questions, our booth don't have to sit there and answer, but say like, oh my gosh, I have a great presentation. Check this out. And all the information is popping up. And then they can ask any further questions or, you know, backup questions they have as well too. So just a couple thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Do we have to have public comment? Are there any other comments in the room? Frank's getting excited.
When you do this survey, have you ever asked the people, not just, you know, how they feel about having the open space, how important it is for them to have, you know, quality and better water and better, you know, fire protection? Is that question in the part of the survey?
Yeah, through the chair. That you saw the questions that were asked there. You know, there are only so many questions they can ask in the survey because people, you know, have attention span. But what we do get much more qualitative information from is the focus groups. And I think we talked about that at the March meeting because in February we did 2 different focus groups and started getting at some of like the feeling that people have about open space and what it means to them and what things about it are important to them and their families. So the focus group information was really good for that.
I missed the March meeting because I was out of the country.
Watch the recording.
Are there any comments in the room? Any public comments online, Carolyn?
Thank you.
Thank you. So you didn't need to pay.
All right. Okay, so here we go, everyone. We are now going to review the draft of our Citizens Advisory Work Plan and recommended approval from the board as well too. Looks like we're gonna have an interactive event. So excited for this one. Thanks, Lee.
I didn't realize Mark was that much taller than me. That's right. That was Charlotte's height. Good evening, committee members. I'm Lee Rauscher, Assistant General Manager, Administrative and Field Operations. And I'm here tonight to finalize the fiscal year 25-26 CAC work plan with any feedback the committee has, and to get the committee to vote to bring the plan to the board for consideration and approval. So as a refresher, the agency creates an annual budget and work plan every year, and that process starts in the fall with looking at both timely and future opportunities, ideas on how to make the most of those opportunities, and then to prioritize proposed projects and programmatic work for the year. Staff has wrapped up the agency-wide fiscal year 25-26 budget, big sigh of relief, and we're turning our attention now to wrapping up the CAC work plan, which is the perfect complement piece. All right, so tonight we're looking for, as I said, the members of the Citizens Advisory Committee to discuss the draft work plan, share their final feedback, and then vote to bring this recommended plan to the board for consideration and approval. And again, reminder about our timeline. So March 24th, we met and we pretty quickly moved through the work plan. We had a very full agenda. And so tonight we're going to slow down just a little bit. So May 19th, and get your final feedback on the plan. On June 12th, as I mentioned earlier, the board will be considering our agency-wide budget and work plan. And then once they approve that, hopefully the same night on the 12th, then the very next meeting on June 26th will bring the CAC work plan for their consideration and approval. That means when you come back on July 28th, you'll have a fresh new work plan to hit the ground running with. Right. Also, as a refresher, here's the CAC purpose as it's outlined in the CAC handbook. As I mentioned in March, this committee plays an incredibly important role in not only sharing your individual expertise with staff and the board of directors, but also to bring your work out into the immediate community and across our jurisdiction, then sharing public input you receive back with staff and the board of directors so that we can make our work even better. You are our Uber volunteers and multipliers of agency's staff. Got those backwards. And we really could not do this work without you. All right. So these are the 8 goals that are outlined in the work plan, and you all have a copy of the packet with the work plan in it in front of you. While I'm happy to take feedback on any of these goals, I thought maybe we could spend a little time on 3 in particular. It's where I got the biggest sense of curiosity and excitement from the committee at our last meeting. And the first 2 of these goals are really around educating the public about our work, which is where we think the biggest opportunity is in this upcoming fiscal year. And from your conversation we just had, I think you all agree. So we believe that acquiring knowledge about the agency's history and initiatives, getting comfortable with sharing them with the public is especially important. Likewise, goal number 4, the opportunity for committee members to help staff with delivering public education and sharing ideas and methods for doing so. And lastly, number 7, related actually, may not feel that way on the surface, but it's about professional development of CAC members. So what skills might you all be wanting to develop? What skills might you suggest that as a CAC, we could invest in helping you undertake some development so that it's you're poised to contribute even more to the committee. But before you dig into those 3, there's also one other that we thought might be worth brainstorming a little bit about this evening. And it's around governance. We have 3 questions for you if you choose to engage on this particular panel. How might staff solicit ideas for governance improvements? What information, education, or context would help position members to participate in a discussion about governance? And then any other suggestions about governance? It's really kind of open-ended. It's something that's on the work plan every year, and we often don't get a lot of feedback. So we thought this evening we'd give you an opportunity to use your Post-it notes on this topic as well. So here's the exercise. You all have Post-it notes. Hopefully you still have some left over at this point. You've got a pen, and I hope they work because I forgot to test them all. If not, I have more. So we've got those 3 goals that I showed. It was objective 1, 4, and 7, in case you're looking in your printed copy. And if you have some thoughts, some ideas on how the CAC might help achieve those goals, put it on a Post-it and then go add it to one of those boards. And the 4th board that's up there is around governance. So if you have some ideas on governance, that 4th board is the one you want to go to. So before we start a timer, any questions on how this works? All right. So why don't we take like 5 minutes and ready, set, go. Yeah.
I'm trying to recall the last meeting that we had in March. And in March, I believe we were told that as the CAC, we would have an overview of capital projects, but not our capital grant funding, but not urban grant funding. Can you refresh my memory? on
Sure.
what we're going to hear about and then be able to help vote on,
Absolutely.
provide input to? Sorry.
Right. So currently, first, the Urban Grant Program has kind of 2 sides of the program, capital and programs.
Yeah, okay.
Capital grants are reviewed by the CAC and recommended to the board for approval. Program grants are reviewed by staff. I should say grant requests are reviewed by staff and recommended to the board. So the CAC doesn't participate in the program related grants. So this particular solicitation, there isn't a role for CAC members. However, we're keeping this on the work plan in case another solicitation comes up within this 12 months.
Okay. Well, I guess can we have a dialogue?
Yeah.
here? That popped a question. Because we're CAC members and we're so actively promoting, OSA and the great work that you're all doing to these programs and people that have the projects, is there a thought of mind as to why the CAC wouldn't review those as well too? So yeah, that's.
Yeah, absolutely. Historically, it's been, we do both programs at once. It's a lot. It was divide and conquer in order to get through the applications in a timely manner. And carving out the larger dollar amounts for the CAC to weigh in on. And really, it's been just to expedite the process, I believe.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Since we got such a talking.
Yeah.
I recall the last urban grant funding, like rollout and we were given or shown the different organizations that were going to be receiving grant funding, there were some comments about some agencies or organizations that have been funded for more years than others.
Yeah.
Some are that are receiving grants from other funding sources, like maybe Valley Water as well too, and just the equitability of having new grantees in the programs. Is that something that staff considers as well too?
I would say so as having participated in the program grants, that is something that I know I have taken into account. It is about the most effective way, right, to get the work done in the community. So sometimes all things being equal, and a new applicant, maybe a new opportunity to cover an area that we haven't been able to cover before, whereas maybe another grantee, it's the same constituency. However, there's nothing that I can think of in the grant requirements in delivering the grant that speaks to repeat applicants versus new applicants.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, you have about a minute left to add your thoughts up there.
Couple thoughts.
Yeah. There are all sorts of them. Yeah, I can do this and.
Well, most of them are making any more, but a lot of classes about that.
You're right on.
It's a great idea.
Oh, good.
Really
Oh,
good
good.
idea.
Great. Thank you.
Where's the next? Next one is mine.
All right, folks, that is it. Oh, yeah. Great.
This is always a fun one, Lee. Thanks for the interaction.
Yeah, my pleasure. And in a second, I'll go grab those boards and I'll read off the Post-it notes so that for the benefit of everybody in the room and then for the public. Okay, so some of the committee feedback here on objective number 1, which is, oh, thank you. Wait, thank you, ma'am. Sure. This first objective is about gaining knowledge, and getting comfortable sharing it with the public. So we've got, go to outreach events, listen to guest questions, mandatory with an exclamation point. We do, I think is what this one, yeah, we do it. Excellent. And then troubleshoot why some docent-led activities have low engagement or no shows. That's a good one. Yeah, thank you. Here, I'll take this. Thank you. Sure. Number 4. Yes, please. All righty. What a team. I'm excited about that one. All right, excellent.
for you.
Okay, and this one is objective number 4 really is about getting out in the community and helping us get out in the community in the upcoming year. So we have connect to OSA staff via LinkedIn. That would be great. Review a list of organizations and communities OSA is trying to boost engagement with to identify where we have helpful networks. So that is, do I understand that to be staff to identify the communities that we're trying to get more involved in so that we can get feedback from you all? I'm not sure who put it up there.
That's mine. I think a couple of times tonight, even I've heard something along the lines of like, there's these groups who'd like to get to know better, whatever, but I don't know who they are. So
Yeah.
maybe tell me who they are. Maybe I know them.
I was gonna say, it's hard to know if you're connected to them if you don't know which communities, right? Thank you. That's great. Mechanism. So is that the how?
Yeah, so there's well-established channels for like getting involved and stuff like that and voicing opinions on like on policies that are in front of us, but what do the mechanisms look like for new stuff?
Okay, thanks, Lauren. Great. Thank you, Kathy. Here, you got that one. Okay.
Policy on radar.
You didn't know you'd be put to work tonight, did you?
I'm delighted.
This the all-encompassing. Okay, and then sorry, and I forgot I could have given you another slide, only now I'm frozen here. Okay, number 7, and this is about professional development for the CAC. So we have recommend help with CAC opportunities on related agencies. I'm not sure if I read that right.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, tell me more.
Actually, it's kind of connected to yours. And that is, I think this topic is about CAC members should go and participate in events and classes and we'll pay for them. That's interesting. I would be interested in knowing what are the other government agencies or private agencies that are looking for members or public participation. That I know we have people here from water, we have people from different measures who work in the community. Are there other agencies that would like or welcome or hope for? I hate to use the word plant from the CAC, but I mean, where we could cross-pollinate.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know how to find them, but maybe you guys could help us.
Okay.
That would be tremendous education, probably much more valuable than you know. 2
Of
nights
course.
At a hotel.
Thank you. Well, and some of these too may come back where we can do some broader brainstorming too, so that we can figure it out together. Promote and encourage workshops or conferences to attend to enhance CAC leadership skills. Definitely. And if anyone has a lead on, we know of a few, but if folks have something specific that they want to share, a name of a course or an organization, we're happy to take that information. And it doesn't have to be right this moment, but happy to take that. Get familiar with measures that would help OSA get funds. You want to tell me a little more about that, Joe?
If we got more familiar with what funds are needed, in turn, we could tell that to other people, and just for us to have that knowledge would be very constructive, and we can just distribute that information.
Got it. Great. Thank you. A couple more. Are you okay? Of course. Getting your arm workout tonight. Communications training for CAC members. Absolutely. Training for CAC members to give elevator pitch on what OSA is in 10 to 15 seconds. And I'm sorry for the poor reading. It's like either wear my glasses to see that or I can see you without them. But yeah, elevator pitch. And then how to align CAC skill sets with OSA needs with a question mark. So I would imagine part of that is what are the OSA needs? Therefore, what are the skill sets that need to be developed? Do I have that? Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you. And then
let's see, we have a couple here for governance, I think. Up for one more? Sure. Okay. The first question was, how might staff solicit ideas for governance improvements? Governance training, well, that's a good one. Let's see. Actually, I'm not so sure they're all like right next to the question, so I'm just going to read the answers. Other suggestions, go to a board meeting. That's a great suggestion. And board meetings are recorded, so you can actually go to a board meeting in the comfort of your very own home anytime you want. Which I enjoy sometimes when I have to follow up on something. Social media guidelines for CAC. What can we post? Guidelines for representing ourselves and the CAC. Presentations at meetings should assume CAC members have reviewed the packet. It's my responsibility. I think they're saying that it's my responsibility to have read the packet, so assume that I'm prepared. Okay. Short and present.
That's fine.
Tation
Yeah,
to
it's like, you guys do such a good job of preparing the
Packets and then going over a lot of what's in the packets, and it is our responsibility to have reviewed them ahead of time and to come prepared with questions or so. I wonder if we can use our time for some topics differently and reduce the didactic and increase the conversation with the assumption that we've read it because it is something we've committed to doing by being here. So
beautiful.
For certain topics.
Beautiful. And we recognize some are really complicated and need more explanation too. So I'm sure there's a balance in there. Let's see, this one says evaluation annual eval with staff lead on experience, engagement, etc. I'm not sure whose that is. Do you want to tell me a little more? Whoever added that one? Lysana.
You said it, but I don't remember exactly.
Maybe I didn't read it right.
No, what I was trying to convey was, if there was an opportunity to do an evaluation of how, like, staff is viewing these meetings and getting a sense of how staff feels CAC is doing, and also getting CAC to do an evaluation on how they've done through the years to kind of see how you pivot your strategy for the following year.
Nice. Thank you. I've always thought it'd be great to do a report to the board of what the CAC has done over the course of a year as well. And then the last one is surveys after every meeting to get feedback. So kind of along those same lines. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, what? Is it for this board?
Yes.
Okay.
You want me to be the man online?
It says review board packets prior to their meetings. So yeah, so packets are posted the Friday before a board meeting, so they're available to everybody at that point. Gives you a heads up if there's something you want to listen into, if you have a question, if you want to follow up with staff later.
Look at the minutes.
Nice.
The agenda pack.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy, very much. All right. So we can add those in to the suggested tasks for the year. And if, I guess I will pause here too to ask, are there any questions or feedback on one of the objectives we didn't talk about, any last minute adds?
I just have some feedback on one of the suggestions about polling the CAC members at the end of each meeting. I think that's a really good idea to gauge what we found interesting, what topics were most relevant to us, and maybe any other ideas that we have too. And then you can do it like a tokenized economy system with whoever is giving the best, responses and is interacting. Maybe there's a prize for them at the end of their term or something like that. Something to incentivize it though, but I think that's a really great way to kind of gauge like where people are at, and also their means of communication with you all as staff as well too, whether it's a phone survey or email or whatnot, but kind of gauges people's interactions too.
Excellent, thank you. And this exercise this evening was because one of the parting comments I think you made, Mira, was, something interactive would be nice. So we'll look for more opportunities along this vein as well. if you're ready, again, looking for you all to make a recommendation to bring this to the board. I know we've got a few edits now to implement into the work plan, and we're happy to incorporate that into the work plan before we bring it on June 12th. So we're going to let Caroline queue up her it takes two to manage the screens and do the typing and organize everything over there.
Okay, so I think I say, is there a recommendation to bring this to the board?
Yes, I read.
Thank you.
Second. Second.
Thank you. Bob recommended and Edward seconded. That is what that's what I should say. Okay. Yes, for the vote?
Frank Kinsella,
Yes.
Bob Sickle,
Yes.
Allison Follow,
Aye.
Lauren Lewis,
Yes.
Nisana Dominguez,
Yes.
Justin Fields,
Aye.
Steve Mink,
Aye.
Mayor Burton,
Yes.
Ed Von Brennan,
Aye.
Joe Henwood,
Aye.
Beth Rigsdale.
Yes.
It passes.
Great. Thank you all.
Thank you. How exciting, everyone. We're gonna have our marching orders and what to be doing for our next meeting. That would be very exciting. Speaking of exciting presentations, I believe we are now on to our board liaison and exciting information that is coming from our board meetings. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much. I'm okay. I think you all. Oh, yeah.
Few things come in small packs.
Thank you. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Kathy Sutherland. I represent District 4. I wanted to let you know of a few things that have happened at the board meeting since I think Raj was here last time for you, or Dr. Gill. The first thing is at the March board meeting, there was an adjournment in honor of Mike Flaher, who was a director on the board, who passed away. And so it was honoring him for his years of service. And just on a personal side, one of the first places I met Mike was the CAC. So we are both CAC members, and he was so beloved and absolutely loved this organization and everything that it does. So he was a huge loss. But one of he had big shoes to fill. But I do think that we did find somebody to fill the shoes. Margie Matthews has been appointed to fill Mike's spot on the board. She was with the organization when it was in its interim phase. So from the very beginning, city council member, definitely engaged in parks. She's always been a big advocate for open space and park space for everyone. And so we really look forward to her joining us on the board and feel that we were fortunate enough to get somebody who knew the organization well, and is just ready to jump in there. And for those of you who weren't able to make it, so Celebrating Our Roots was last Friday. It seems like it was longer, but it was out in Coyote Valley. And it was a great activity where the organization brought in founders, people from different eras. There were speakers about each decade of the organization. So for those of us who've been around for a while, we found out where our holes in our knowledge were. And it was great. Former Congressman Mike Honda was there. Diana McKenna was there to MC. These are just leaders and such big names in the history of this organization that we tend to forget because it's been 30 years. So it was great to have them all come out. There was it was out in Coyote Valley. There were 5 oak trees that each decade planted, and it's going to become an oak grove for people who go to Coyote Valley to find a little bit of place to sit down and rest in the shade. So that was a great event, just fantastic. And I know that Ed and Steve, I saw you guys there, and
Great.
Bob, yeah, I thought so. Bob too. So it was a great event. And then the board is changing. The other thing that the board just heard is that Director Potter is resigning his seat because he's moving out of the district. And so there was a notification for people, the board decided to, instead of going to an election, to once again to interview and appoint. There was a notification that went out to the community, asked for people to apply to fill that seat. And there was one applicant, and she's sitting in this room right here. It's Lisana. And so I was part of the group that interviewed her. The board still has to make the decision to appoint. But that conversation will happen on Thursday, and we look forward to it. Yay. Yeah. So anyway, these are the things that I know you can read the board packet and you can look at the minutes, but these are more of the things that I don't think you would necessarily get from those things that are a little bit more cut and dried. And I'm here to answer any questions if you have any. And also to thank you. Your meeting and your engagement right now, all of you, is phenomenal. And as somebody who's been a CAC member, you guys are just taking it up another notch. So thank you all very, very much for your service and your dedication to the organization, going out and representing the organization at booths. That's the way to really impact people. So thank you very much for everything you do.
Thank you. Are there any questions? No. No. Any public comments? Okay, wonderful. Thanks, Kathy. Sure. All right, now we will hear from our general manager and staff and our reports.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mark Landgraf, Assistant General Manager. Just a couple of items I wanted to mention. Last week, I had the pleasure of sitting on a couple of panel discussions, and one was co-hosted by San Jose Council Member George Casey and Assembly Member Gail Pellerin. It was a wildfire home hardening panel. An audience of about 100 people in Coyote Valley. It was really well attended. And I got to speak about the Open Space Authority coordinating on the Fire Safe Council and the especially the fuels management that we do on our lands adjacent to homes and what value that brings to people in the community, and especially with the example of the Loma fire back in 2016, where we were able to reduce fuels on our lands that helped fire suppression efforts during that fire to keep the fire away from Morgan Hill. So I mean, I think that's relevant to some of the points that were made earlier, that's the kind of stuff that we do want to message out there and show the value that we're bringing to people. The other panel was on Friday, hosted by the League of Women Voters on urban forestry. And so I spoke about our urban grant program, what we do to support urban forestry in our urban areas, and also about the importance of incorporating biodiversity into thoughts about urban forestry, when you're selecting tree species to complement the work that we're doing in the adjacent areas outside of the urban area. So one more thing I wanted to mention is the reason I wasn't at the March meeting is because Megan Drager and I were in DC representing the Open Space Authority. Had 13 meetings in a couple of days with members of our delegation. sometimes the actual congressional member, sometimes the staff members, but all really good to keep them updated on the work that we do, understand what their priorities are, and so that they understand ours, and we can work together to help each other out. You know, a lot of frustration with the current administration, especially because there's, you know, all of our members of our delegation are Democrats, and so both chambers and the administration are Republican led. But still, you know, everybody's doing what they can to help their constituents. We found a lot of opportunities to work together on that. And one thing in particular I wanted to mention is meeting with Republican members of the House Ag Committee was very productive in that we're seeking eligibility for programs that allow us to continue our farmland protection program, especially reselling land to private farmers subject to a conservation easement, and had some very good opportunities to make progress on that eligibility and how it might be a way for the Ag Committee to, you know, rather than cutting the program entirely, but work through some technical solutions to get us there. Anyway, so some really good discussions. Thank you.
And then just a couple of comments as well. Lee Rauscher, Assistant General Manager as well. We, as the board is changing, so is staff. We have a few retirements. And because many of you have been around working with the OSA for quite some time, I want to mention these because you probably know at least a couple of these folks. Joelle Gerritsen, Executive Assistant, has retired. We'll be honoring her Thursday evening with a board resolution for her 14 years, I believe, with the agency. As Kathy mentioned, Director Potter has stepped off of the board. We'll be honoring his service at the June 26th board meeting, along with board resolutions for Terry Rogaway, who will be leaving us right at the beginning of July, and Dave Tharp. Also, July 4th will be his last day because he will be driving in the Morgan Hill Independence Day parade, and that will be his final day of service. For us, we were really lucky to lure back someone who worked for us as a seasonal way back when. Dan Chamberlain has joined us as our new equipment mechanic operator, EMO for short. We lured him away from Mid-Penn, so it's nice to have him home. And we have not opened a recruitment yet for Terry's position, because you can't actually replace Terry, but you can put someone else in the position. But that will be opening soon. And then we were very fortunate to find a very seasoned and talented executive assistant that we brought in on a temporary basis for now to support the executive team. So I just wanted to share those quick staffing updates. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Good evening again. Charlotte Graham, Public Information Officer with the Open Space Authority. Director Sutherland had mentioned the founders event last week, and for those who weren't able to attend, we were recording it. And so the communications team will be putting together kind of a longer form video that'll be going on the Our History page of our website over the summer. So we're working on putting it together now.
Thank you. Yep, there we go, Steve.
Mark, maybe you could help me just on clarification. In the news recently, we heard about, I think it was Post, who acquired a piece of property, I think it was between IBM and Calero. And I just want, and then there was other there were mentions of the owner in that area who was still working on potentially a cemetery. Those are unrelated, right? That person is still proceeding forward as far as you know?
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, so the property that you're referring to, Steve, that was purchased, and there was an article written about it, is the Holt House property. So that one is now permanently protected by Post, and that's the one that Charlotte and her team showed in the post with Nick's profile, and got some good earned media out of that. The adjacent property is owned by Brandenburg, And that's where there's a proposal for a cemetery, and we're tracking that project at the city of San Jose. It's still city of San Jose, even though it's way up on top of the hill there. And we're expecting the EIR to come out sometime in the August timeframe. So we'll be responding to that EIR when it comes out.
Thanks.
Any other comments from committee members? Any public comments? All right, we're gonna move on to committee member reports. Do I roll call for people or do I just let people? Beth, do you have anything to report out?
I do not have anything tonight.
Thank you. Justin? Joe?
Just attending outreach programs and trail master functions, as usual.
Thank you. Frank?
No comments.
Thank you. No comments from myself. You all saw my social media, and I really do encourage all of you to work with the social team to get your videos posted. You'll never know how they'll resonate with your constituents and your own communities as well too. If you speak any other languages, I highly recommend that you make a video or some kind of outreach in another language just to increase visibility. So that's my 2 cents. And now Bob.
Oh.
Thank you, Allison. Lauren?
This past weekend, my running club hosted our annual race, which was a 100K, 50K foot race through Almaden, Quicksilver Park, and Sierra Sewell. We have about 400 runners, 200 volunteers, and about another 100 spectators. We start parking cars at like 3:30 in the morning, and we don't get out of the park until about midnight that night. But it exposes a lot of people to nature and parks and open space, and if we ever expand to a 100-mile event, it'll be hard to do it without you guys, so I'll be reaching out to you for a permit.
I'm exhausted just hearing about that.
You're 80 years old.
Lisa? I just want to thank you, Mark, for the opportunity to meet offline and learn more about the Urban Grant Program and getting to know the history of it. And Caroline, thank you for the emails on the data for it as well. Thank you.
Steve?
No.
And Edward?
No, just to reiterate that celebrating our Roots program was outstanding. Some of the pioneers there were just so interesting, and just watch the recording when it comes out. It's well worth seeing that. And off topic, if anybody's interested in, if you don't have anything to do, not enough to do, if you want to be on a VTA oversight committee for the Measure B tax, look me up. We need a couple people. That is all.
Can I just add one thing, Edward, because you're reminding me? There's the founders video with Kitty and Eric, Garnetta. I'm trying to remember who else is in it. Virginia. But these were all people that I met through the CAC because they sat on the CAC. You should view it. It's not very long, but it talks about a small dedicated group of people who created this organization, and it's so sweet and phenomenal. And Kitty's passed, but I think everybody else is still with us.
Was Vicky Moore the one that was with the Parks Department that was lending people out to the organization when it was first being put together? Nobody knows. I know she was with Parks a long time ago, but I think she was.
Oh, for the money, right? That's forwarding the money. Well, and the other thing that came out of the Celebrating Our Roots is this organization had to go to the ballot 4 times to be established. That's perseverance. 4 times.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Thank you for that historical information there. And Charlotte, I do see a video series where you're montaging voiceover from what the original founders were thinking and saying to how it's translated now into what we're seeing as well too. So hit me up if you want some more ideas. With that said, any subcommittee reports, if any? No public comments online as well too, then I will, for the sake of time, call the meeting adjourned at 8:53 p.m.
Yeah.
Take it easy.